Hi friends, welcome to the series on Julius Caesar, one of the famous tragedy of Shakespearean era. And here we are on Act 3rd and Scene 1st and 2nd, just a summary, just a look. And I hope you've already have read of the text of the play of Act 3rd and Scene 1st and 2nd. It's presented by me, Palak Sharma. Few things about me: I'm an economics honors student, a poet at heart, a theatre geek, a mixture of Keats and Shakespeare. And once you've finished watching this lesson and series, do not forget the 3 R's and the S. Rate, review, recommend, and share the lessons. And here's my link. You can always follow me on Unacademy over there. Now, on this act, we've finally come on the act third, which is the main plot, the climax of the whole play. The plot, the scene where Caesar is being killed. Assassinated is the right word, actually. He's not being killed, he's assassinated. So it is a place where Caesar has been assassinated, and we are on Act 3rd, Scene 1st. Before we get more into it, we must realize one thing, that Caesar was not paying heed to any warnings which were given to him, even in this act. Initially, we have seen in the first act and the scene second, there was a soothsayer who came to Caesar and he said to him that Ides of March is not good for him. But still, this time also, in this scene also, we'll see that the soothsayer returns, saying him that the Ides of March is still not passed because this is the day. This is the Ides of March, 15th March. This is the day when Caesar is going to the Senate with all his senators and conspirators as well, we can say. So the first warning is given by Soothsayer. He once again comes to Caesar saying that the Ides of March is not yet finished. And the second warning is given by Artemidorus. He comes to him with a letter which stated the name of all the conspirators, but yet Caesar pays no heed to them. Either of them. Caesar is not interested in listening to his own downfall, the story of his own downfall. He just sets them aside, shrugs them off, and moves ahead to the Senate with all those people whom he considers as his co-senators and actually who are the conspirators. So there's a lot of dramatic irony going on that we know what's going to happen. We want to warn Caesar about it. The dramatic irony is this only, that we know what's actually happening. The audiences know what is about to happen, but they cannot help the protagonist from doing the thing. It seems very contracting yourself, that you cannot just shout out to Caesar and say to him that they're going to kill you, don't go with them. You really want to do it, but you cannot, because this is dramatic irony. So we start with Act 3rd, Scene 1st. Now Caesar is headed to the Senate house with all of the conspirators surrounding him. So he sees the soothsayer again, once more, and he tells the soothsayer, that Ides of March have come. Now the soothsayer responds with, "A Caesar, but not gone." So he just warns him once more that it's not gone yet, it's still today. However, Caesar, he's not concerned and continues to the Senate. Now next, who comes is Artemidorus. Now he comes and attempts to hand him a letter, his letter. The letter has the all explanation, that its content, because they're going to affect him personally. The content are actually written for Caesar. So then he says, Decius comes in between and he responds quickly. He says that Caesar, the Trebonius has a document for him to read instead. Do not read your personal letters, because this is not time. This is not a time for reading personal stuff. This is time for the documentations. So Caesar then tells Artemidorus that what touches us ourselves shall be served later. Again, this is the point when we realize that Caesar has more concern towards his nation. It is not this only, that Caesar just wants power for his own sake, for his own vanity's sake. It's actually for the people of Rome that he is trying hard to come up with something new, something that the power he wants, the power is not for himself, but for the people of Rome. Of course he wants power, but that's not over ambitiousness. It's just that he's ambitious, but not over ambitious. So now, as they are approaching the Senate, Trebonius manages to pull Mark Antony aside and away from Caesar. So thus he's making kind of Caesar more vulnerable to the attack, because if Caesar is not going to have his brown nose aside of him, then he's going to get weaker in that case. Now Caesar takes his seat in the Senate. Now he's seated at his place, and now the proceedings take place, that he allows Metellus Cimber to petition him. So the man, he just throws himself at Caesar's feet, and then what he says is that he wants his brother to be released from banishment. But then he's ordered to stand by Caesar. That Caesar tells him that fawning and rubbing his nose will not get him any favor. It will not win him any favor. And then he says that no, Caesar doth not wrong, but with just cause. that Caesar doesn't do anything wrong until and unless he has a very just cause for it, doing it. At this, then Brutus comes forward, and then he says to Caesar, Caesar's great surprise, because Caesar never thought that Brutus would stand against him. But Brutus comes and pleads for this man's brother. So Cassius also joins him then, and Caesar then tells them that his decision is constant as the northern star, and that he will not remove the banishment in any kind of case. So then Cinna approaches, and Caesar tells him, "Hence wilt thou lift up Olympus." Now Decius and Ligarius, they come forward and kneel before him as well. So now finally Casca also kneels. All the conspirators are now leaning and they're kneeling before him. And then this Casca comes and says, "Speak hands for me." Means he says that now my mouth is not going to speak anything. Every talk now is going to take place through my hands. So he says, "Speak hands for me," and then he stabs Caesar. So the first one to stab Caesar is not Brutus, not Cassius, not Cinna, it's Casca. Now all the conspirators continue to stab him as he falls, and the last thing he says is, "Et tu, Brute." He simply is not able to digest the fact that Brutus, the most loyal friend, is stabbing him. And then he says, "Et tu, Brute," then falls Caesar. It means that if even Brutus is against me, then Caesar has to fall. Now you will notice that Caesar always refers to him in third person, because he considers himself as as a separate entity. He doesn't consider himself to be a part of masses, to be a part of normal popular people. He is somewhere above them, somewhere beyond them. So that's why he considers calling himself as a third person, giving himself a greater degree of respect in that case. So that's done. Cinna immediately shouts out and he starts crying out, "Liberty, freedom, tyranny, it's dead," and all these kind of notions of revolution. And the other senators, they also run out of the Senate house, and it is everywhere confusion. And the conspirators, they stay together to protect themselves. And Brutus, he finally lets them too. He says, "Stoop, Romans, stoop, and let us bathe our hands in Caesar's blood, up to the elbows, and besmear our swords. Then walk we forth even to the marketplace, and waving our red weapons over our heads, let's all cry out, peace, freedom, and liberty." Now this is what Calpurnia dreamt of, that all the great Roman people will be bathing their hands in Caesar's blood, and this is what actually is happening in Act 3rd and Scene 2nd. So Cassius also continues this exaltation of their dead, and he's saying, "How many ages hence shall this our lofty scene be acted over, in states unborn and accents yet unknown?" And he further adds that they will be known as the men that gave their country liberty. But actually, is this liberty? That it's a question mark for us audiences to answer. That is this liberty? Shakespeare has left it open for us. Now the servant of Mark Antony arrives, and he falls prostrate before Brutus, telling Brutus that Antony wishes to meet with him, and he wants to know why Caesar had to die. Antony wants to know the reason. So Brutus promises Antony will not be harmed, and he tells his servant to come and bring him. So Cassius then again tells Brutus that he still has misgivings about Antony. Cassius is very shrewd, and he's skeptic about Antony, even though he has promised not to hurt him, but still. So Antony arrives, and then he cries the death of Caesar, and he begs the murderers, especially Brutus, to explain why Caesar had to be killed. So Brutus tells him that Caesar was destroying the republic, and this was the reason that he had to be removed from power. Now Antony is a person whom we'll see in two aspects: Antony as a friend and Antony as an orator. Right now we're seeing him as a friend. He's kind of defending Caesar, that he shouldn't have been killed. You killed him wrongly. So Antony pretends to be convinced by what Cassius and Brutus says. Okay. And he asks the conspirators to let each man render me his bloody hand. So he shakes his hand with each one of them, naming them as he face each of them. So the last hand he takes is that of Trebonius, who actually did not commit the murder, but he was distracted. Mark Antony is distracted at that time because he was not able to protect Caesar. So he even shakes hand with Trebonius, who was not one of the killers, one of the assassinators. Then Antony quickly then recants his agreement with the murderers. He says that no. He tells Cassius that he almost joined them after shaking their hands, but he's again swayed at the sight of Caesar's body. Then he asked them that if he had permission from them, then he can take Caesar's body to marketplace and show it to the crowds. It's kind of eulogy, giving a eulogy to Caesar. So Brutus then gives him a permission to do this, but Cassius once again, "You know not what you do not consent that Antony speak in this funeral. Know you how much the people may be moved by what he will utter?" So, as a compromise, Brutus decides to give his speech first and then he allows Antony to speak after that. So, that's what happens in this case. Then Antony only say positive things about conspirators. This is also agreed. So, when Caesar's body and Antony is there, he just again says to him, "Oh, pardon me, thou bleeding piece of earth, that I am meek and gentle with these butchers." He continues becoming ever more violent in his speech. Domestic fury, fierce civil strife shall cumber all the part of Italy. So a servant is sent, and Octavius Caesar arrives and sees the body. Antony tells him of funeral eulogies, and the second scene starts now. So Brutus and Cassius, they tell the plebeians to follow them in order to hear why the murder took place. So what happens now is that Brutus says all of it, that he gives one reason. "As Caesar loved me, I weep for him. As he was fortunate, I rejoice in it. As he was valiant, I honor him. But as he was ambitious, I slew him. I killed him." So people are swayed. They say, "Live, Brutus, live." Now, but when Antony's speech begins, he begins with a very famous line: "Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears." Now, his speech continually praises Brutus as honorable man who has killed Caesar for being ambitious. Yet he also describes Caesar as the most honorable and generous man. So in this way, Antony appears to praise his friend while respecting the men who murdered him also. When in fact Antony is inciting the crowd against Brutus also, Cassius also, and conspirators too. So the plebeians, they are easily swayed. They are fickle-minded people, and they conclude that Caesar was not ambitious and he was wrongly murdered. And after the plebeians beg, Antony even reads Caesar's will to them after descending down to the masses and standing next to Caesar's body because he want to connect to them. Then he shows them the stab wounds and he names the conspirators who gave Caesar those wounds. The crowd then just starts to surge away in anarchy. They cry out, "Revenge, seek, burn, fire, kill, slay." And Antony stops them. And then he finally reads the bill in which Caesar had given every Roman citizen 75 drachmas, and he also gave them the land of Rome. So these were the people who were easily swayed. They saw money coming to them. They were so fickle-minded. They thought, okay, Caesar has been so great to them. So the plebeians, normal Republic of Rome, they react in a frenzy of anger against the men who killed Caesar, and they carry away the body of Caesar. So now when this is done, Antony just says this: "Now let it work. Mischief, thou art afoot. Take thou what course thou wilt." Means Antony says that he has just left mischief. He has just ignited a spark, and now the fire will take its own way. The servant of Octavius then arrives and he tells Antony that Octavius is already in Rome and then he is waiting for him at Caesar's house. So who is Octavius? He is the potential revenge taker for Caesar's death. Along with Mark Antony, he'll be the one who will be forming the triumvirate from now on after Caesar is gone. So we've done this. We have seen the speeches, and this is one of the most famous speeches of Mark Antony and Brutus as well, because here we'll find what is the difference, the stark comparison between the two speeches. This is again important for us because it is really a very historic speech. So we'll see the same thing in the analysis of this act 3rd, in the next lesson of the series. Till then, you can just keep on reading more and more about Shakespeare and research about it if you want to. And put your doubts in the comment section. I'll be there to answer it all. And thanks a lot. Rate, review, recommend, and share the lesson. Have a nice day.